It was a little weird playing like an incestual inbred.
Psycho redneck clowns, remember? One of the chapters in McGraw-Hill college textbooks for psychology had me in it for extreme kidnapping. Some minor hacking, some phone phreaking, some minor scams. And I sold a lot of marijuana back in the day. That was like my day job.
Me too.
Initially, we only agreed to make 500,000, 250 for me, 250 for him. We didn't want to be greedy, you know. He was in the hole digging his own grave, right?
Oh.
Drive-by shankings were a thing at this prison. Like
roll-by shankings? That's crazy.
Drive-by shankings, guys.
Oh.
Now I don't wanna do it, but I ain't afraid to die. Lord knows I ain't perfect. I ain't trying to tell a lie. It's understood, and I ain't hearing all that woulda, coulda, shoulda. Trying to say you want peace, then you burn the.
It was my God's honest that I was all about a non-violent approach, but it seems truth is a non-topic.
What up, though? This Minivan Musician, Season 2, Episode 8. I'm Don Verb, and this is
Danielle. Even though we usually don't do introduction videos to most of our interviews or any of our videos, really, but we felt the need to do one for this specific string of videos because there's just a lot to it.
He's a longtime friend of mine, and when we were considering going back into doing the podcasting thing after the problems we had the first time, it kind of just popped into my head one day that he had one of the most interesting stories that could ever possibly be told. If I wanted to set up a season of a podcast and have, a white collar criminal who's done time in federal prison, who is also an entrepreneur and has been trained by the U.S. government in anti-terror. I'll leave some of it out because I got to leave something. Yeah, I felt like we should do the introduction to say, stick with the interview. I'm going to put timestamps to the chapters, to different parts of his life. This will be a 2-part interview because I believe it's over 3 hours long or something
Easily,
like that.
Yeah.
And it tells a life story that's beyond interesting. I think you'll find him to be a unique study because when somebody is dubbed, like I've called him, the channel has called him the most fascinating man, you would expect them to be boisterous and animated and all of these things and extremely narcissistic, but
Adam is not that. He's very humble. He is a very laid back, quiet dude. Doesn't say much unless it's something that needs to be said, which I admire about people. So
he created a company that was as infamous as it was famous. It was extremely successful. It was on the Howard Stern show. I was actually a part of it. And he climbed those heights with a company that was just kind of something that popped into his head while watching a movie one day, all the while also doing what ended up putting him into federal prison that he didn't even need to be doing. He was having the kind of success that we all dream of at such a young age. Definitely looks at things in different ways than you would expect. And I'm someone who always tries to look at the psychology of everyone that we interview and kind of figure out what's going on up here that makes their life take the turns that it takes. But I'll admit that even as somebody who's a longtime friend, I don't completely understand him. If you have any vibes from him or you have any knowledge on that sort of thing, definitely drop it in the comments below.
We strongly encourage you to take it all in and tell us what you think. Be honest. Give us some comments. Give us some feedback. Give him some feedback. Tell us in the comments.
People pay us to kidnap them, and you almost can't get a rise out of the guy about it. I decided to do this one of my endeavors, one of my jobs. Anyways.
I think very highly of Adam as a person. I'm glad to call him a friend now as a result of him, being his friend and learning more about his life. And I think that you will enjoy it as well. So, give it a watch and let us know what you think.
I don't know. I guess we could start with the stereotypical how you grew up type of thing. happy childhood, struggling childhood.
Whole psychology.
So you want to get how long should I spend on that?
Enough.
How
Like
long
it.
you feel comfortable, not
Yeah,
you
dude.
don't have to go into no crazy detail or anything like that.
Yeah, it just gives people a background of like what they're picturing in their mind. You know, they spend a total of maybe 5 minutes on it in a movie about someone. So
right.
maybe that. I don't know.
So you're gonna edit it out, you chop it up real fast. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
All right. So my parents were together. I was an only child, and my parents were pretty cool, for the most part. My dad worked a lot of hours. My mom, she had some, I'm not really positive what was wrong with her, but she had possibly some kind of mental health issues, because she would be, one way one day and she could snap like that, and
identify.
go on an absolute tirade. And, I walked on eggshells for, many years. Well, as a kid, I should say, not many years. Other than that, I had a pretty good childhood. We had stuff. We had a nice house. We had cars. My dad had a boat. So it wasn't like I was needing anything,
Right.
But, with my mom's, weirdness, and it was pretty much abuse, actually. It was emotional abuse, a lot of that, physical abuse. She was, she could be cool, or she'd be a total witch. You know what I mean?
That's the toughest thing, is when you don't know what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, honestly, I kind of had the same situation. The only child thing plays into a lot of stuff too, I think. It gives you it feels like, to me, you get this survival instinct thing built into you, where it's like, it's me against the world type of thing, that's what it was for me anyway. I got to go out and make my way. And usually that contributed to me putting other people on, almost like building a family around me. You know what I mean? Like that was my own weird little thing. But I've noticed that in other people too. I get into people's stories that aren't necessarily like, a lot of people are like, oh, I want to hear the serial killer's childhood.
Mm-hmm.
No, I like listening to the stories from almost everybody, because it's so much different than what you see like on a sitcom.
Yeah.
Or, like what you see in statistics, like the numbers don't tell the whole story. But yeah, that was one of the reasons I asked, is because you kind of started, well, when did you start like the music thing? Like, what was that the first thing that you really dove into hard was music?
Well, I'd say probably one of the things that I invested in myself and put 100% effort into. So yeah, I would say the music thing. But prior to that, I was already, doing, criminal activity, like we talked about in previous videos, and I had already, a lot of these things overlap, because like I got arrested for the counterfeiting operation in 2004. I was rapping during that time, before it and after it, right up until 2006. So
yeah.
But I just wanted to, just mention real quick, going backwards for a minute. I'm firmly in Generation X, because I was born in the early 70s. So my childhood was the late 70s and all of the 80s.
Wait,
so,
you were born in the early 70s?
Yeah, I was born in.
Oh, you wear your age good, dude. Because I thought, I'm sitting here thinking of all this stuff, and I'm like, yeah, okay, so he's like a year or two older than me. I was born in 80, so
Oh, wow.
I didn't know you were born in the early 70s. So wait a minute, you were freaking, you were like 30 when the counterfeiting thing happened. So like, what were you doing? Like, say, middle teenage years up to adulthood? Like, what was your thing? Like, what was your goal? I guess I'm asking.
Well, when I was in high school, I wanted to, I only had like two career paths that I was interested in that I thought would be cool. One was I wanted to be an FBI agent, ironically, and two, I wanted to be a psychologist. One was practical, one was maybe not so practical. But then I found out that just because of, like a lot of the requirements and criteria to be an agent, I wouldn't be able to meet them. You know what I mean? And then psychology, I decided I'd go to college for that. And so I did. But ultimately, I dropped out of college. I took every psychology course that the university offered. And I got straight A's and everything. But by this time, I'd already started kidnapping people and was doing the rap thing. And we almost got that TV show. So I was like, what do I need college for? So I dropped out.
Right.
Yeah, so you finished some significant time in college, though.
Yeah, it's like those movies where there's that guy that stays in there for like 5 or 6 years. That was me.
So you acquired some knowledge. At least, for all intents and purposes, you have the knowledge of maybe more than some psychologists.
Yeah,
I
I've
could have
seen
got
a
it back.
few, and they're not always astute.
Well, one of my issues at the time is I could only focus on stuff that interested me. So when you go to college, you have to take a lot of prerequisite courses.
yeah, that's the stuff
That you got to fill up your time with, and some of these classes were so boring to me, and I just hated them. So I would drop them, and then I take more psychology classes. So at one point, they talked to me. They were like, "Look, you're so super concentrated in the specialized stuff, and you don't have hardly any of your prerequisites. You got to start taking this other stuff." And I'm like, "I don't want to, though." And they're like, "If you want a degree, you kind of got to."
Dude, I totally identify with that.
For sure.
I seriously do.
Concentrate on any of that
So it's safe to say maybe you got a little ADD going or something, or
Stuff is not necessary. You know what I mean?
Right.
has nothing to do with your degree.
Yeah.
Like
No,
calc
no.
or whatever has nothing to do with the psychology degree.
Yeah.
You know, so I totally get that. I do think it's kind of silly that they jump through those hoops. It's
it's ridiculous. It's the same.
It's obvious I can fucking read and write because I'm killing it in this psychology class. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm good with my English.
Like, well, let's please tell this person that they're never allowed to be a psychologist or a psychiatrist just because they didn't take that one math class.
Right. It's like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
You said you dropped out. Like, what did you drop out to do? Anything in particular? You're just like, I'm out. I'm going to figure some shit out. Whatever.
Well, technically, at one point, before because I got a letter from the school at one point saying that because of, you dropping so many classes and only focusing on these concentrated courses, we're going to have to academically dismiss you for one semester.
Damn.
And you could come back if you want, but you'll have to, like fill out some paperwork and stuff like that. But for right now, we have to academically dismiss you. So after I got that letter, I was like, no biggie. I don't really want to go back at this point anyway. So, they
gave you an out.
Yeah, it was. And the funny thing is around that time, it was around that time. I'm pretty sure. But the textbook McGraw-Hill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
a lot of college textbooks are printed by McGraw-Hill. One of the college textbooks, not for my college, but I don't know. I mean, it was a full run of McGraw-Hill. One of the chapters in McGraw-Hill college textbooks for psychology had me in it for extreme kidnapping. So I thought that was like a complete circle. Like I got academically dismissed, but now college textbooks are talking.
Now y'all got to read about me.
That reminds me, like, no offense because this guy's a fucking monster, but that reminds me of Kohlberger.
Oh.
The Idaho 4 guy that just killed those people. Like, he had a doctorate in psychology or whatever, and now they're gonna have a whole fucking chapter on this guy at some point.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be like, yeah, gotcha, So I used to actually show people that. I was like, I was a henchman for this, check this out. We're in fucking, because I found it online somewhere. And I was like, look at that. But you mentioned before you were doing some kind of hustling. I don't know if you wanted to go in any detail with that or whatever, but did that kind of overlap? Where did the extreme kidnapping idea come from?
Where did that come from?
Like, I know where it came from as far as the inspiration, but like, walk me through how the hell that came about.
Curious.
Yeah, that's right. That'll be what people want to know. Like, what possessed him to?
Absolutely.
Right. Well, the inspiration was a movie called The Game. With Michael.
Great movie too.
Great movie. Yeah, 1996. I remember watching it and thinking, wow, that's going to be a thing someday. People are actually going to pay for that. But then I was like, but it's going to have to be scaled down, because in the movie it was only for rich people, like
very rich.
It cost like $100,000 or something.
That was some elaborate shit they did for like, it was crazy. Yeah. Kidnappings to Mexico and
Oh yeah, it was
hundreds of actors that would,
Yeah, my God.
Hired all kinds of actors.
That would be amazing.
It would be incredible.
I was like, if there was some way to scale it down and make it more accessible to more people, that was what I was trying to do. Was trying to think of a way to scale that down. And there was a kidnapping in the movie, and I was like, well, what if we just focused on the kidnapping aspect of it? Because then we'd be in total control of the scenario. And, people get kidnapped every day. So it's something that could happen to you. Now, back then, it wasn't as likely to happen to you as it is nowadays. But now it's a lot more prevalent. But I was like, that's a good way to control the scenario, that we would be able to control everything that happens in a kidnapping. So, yeah, that's and I started it in September of 2002 and put out a press release to the whole country. That was my secret weapon. I put out a press release to the whole country. I sent it to every radio station, every newspaper, bunch of TV news channels, local news. And the next day, I was deluged with, I couldn't even believe it worked as well as it did. I mean, my inbox was filled with inquiries and requests and interview. People want to do.
Did you even have like when you did that? Did you even have like a company set up or anything, like henchmen or anything, or did you just say, "I'm going for this and I'll figure it out once I get the business"?
I had a website. I already had the website. I already had Extreme Kidnapping, the domain name. I had my initial henchmen were a bunch of my best friends who I got to practice with. So we were practicing. So once we started getting jobs, I was like, I want to be able to do this, fluidly. So, let's practice, so me and my friends were practicing, but ultimately none of those guys, ended up being actual henchmen. I ended up recruiting henchmen and hiring them totally separate from the guys that helped me make the training videos and stuff. Because my friends and stuff, a lot of their families, didn't want them doing it because, either they'd get hurt or, they were just worried about different aspects of it. And some of the guys had, full-time jobs and stuff. And so there was a number of reasons, but ultimately I had footage of our training sessions. So when the media was coming, I had stuff to show them, Oh,
okay. Yeah.
And
like you always did it, for people that don't know, I've actually worked as a henchman for Adam before. I never worried about safety, and it's not just because I can take care of myself or anything, but you always had these set up very professionally. There was essentially a script. You went over things 100 times, it seemed like, with the clients. Like I always felt like we were in control, complete control. We're just providing a service. It was almost like we were a strip club or we were whatever, Yeah,
I wasn't like scared when you went to that last one or whatever in Louisiana. I was kind of, the thought crossed my mind, like, obviously this shit is really weird. This is really fucking weird. But people are paying for this. Go fly, have a good time.
Yeah, like where did you find people? Like, that's aside from just random, just from press releases, but like Did you go on certain websites and like, you know, and now like niche websites or something, or like
just regular people just came to you like, I want to do
Are you
this?
talking about clients or henchmen?
Yeah, clients.
no clients?
Oh, clients. Yeah, I mean, I didn't go looking for them. They just came to us because, you know, the kind of media coverage that we got was priceless. I mean, when you have third parties talking about you and saying, look at this, look at that. People, if you got a website, people just come to you, you know, emails,
Yeah.
and calls, and, you know, that's how I was getting clients.
That shows us a real need. Like, I mean,
it's so crazy to me.
It's a real need. It's a real want.
Yeah.
Because, yeah,
That's wild. It really is. Just to think. I mean, I was talking to him about that the other night. I was like, you know, when you guys did that, like the people that would, you know, be these clients, I mean, you just start thinking about, you know, some of the like scenarios that he described to me that you guys had done. I'm just thinking like, my God, these people got to be really weird.
That's why I thought you were going to some weird websites and finding them. Like, I thought you were going to like the dark web or something and like, like digging guys up, or like when you obviously did like the hacking thing before like extreme kidnapping and all that?
Well, no, I was hacking on my own, but like I didn't start working for the hacking magazine, Blacklisted 411 until, well, I was writing for them from like, I'd say 2002 through 2006. But I was just like a contributing writer. It was like around 2005 that I started writing, you know, for them full time.
So previous to that, you were hacking, like, was it more just like a hobby, like a challenge, or was there like a financial part to it? Or
it was mostly for financial purposes. I was trying to like find, you know, new ways to, you know, free up cash, you know, from the system, you know. So most of the stuff that I was doing was like, back then they called it phone freaking, and it was like hacking phones, freaking PH, you know, instead of NF. And so there was all these different ways to hack phones back then, because the telecommunications companies were using, you know, by today's standards, primitive technology, you know, and red boxing was a thing. And I remember when I bought my first red box, I thought I was so cool because I could go up to any payphone and make a free phone call, you know.
Yeah, cool.
And there was all kinds of, you know, different colored boxes, and every box did something different, you know. There was like a prism box, a black box, a green box, so on and so forth. So I was, you know, trying to learn about that stuff, and I was pretty good at social engineering, which is because I think I mentioned before, I tried computer hacking. I wasn't great at it, and I didn't know enough of the languages and different things, and I didn't really want to learn them because it seemed really boring. I fell into the scripts, and scripts are like already made for you. You just got to go find them, and then you implement them. And it's on the computer and stuff, but, you know, like obviously somebody else already made the script for you, so you just use it, you know. You're still hacking, but if you didn't have the script, you probably wouldn't know how to do it. You know what I mean?
Right. So you're using the tool of someone else, but you're doing the action.
Right.
Yeah.
What was to you, what was maybe the coolest thing you pulled off with that? Like, you know, whether it was for financial benefit or not, just where you sat there and said, oh yeah, that was good.
Well, I was really excited about the red boxing when I could make free phone calls. I thought that was really cool. And then I got a tone generator, so I didn't need a red box after a certain point. I just had this tone generator, and it would make the signal that a nickel generates, and that a quarter generates, and then a dime generates. So you could just, you know, 2 dimes and a nickel sound, and it would trick the into making.
Oh,
So I thought that was
that's
cool.
pretty cool.
And
that's insane.
That's pretty damn cool.
And then one time, this was cool too. I bought this thing called a jackpotter, and it would allow you to go up to a vending machine and jackpot the machine, and all the pop would just drop right out of it.
What?
That's sweet. That'd be hilarious.
And sometimes if you did it right, the change would all shoot out too.
Dang.
That's like some Trailer Park Boys shit. They wish they had that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Dude, I
So,
want one of those, to be honest.
And there was a
That'd be fun
low
to
tech.
see a
We
full
did the
price
low
of
tech
it.
way too, because I enlisted a couple of my buddies. They were, curious about what I was doing. I was like, all right, let's do the low tech way. So what you do is get a 2-liter pop, and you mix it with salt, just regular table salt, to get it very, very salty. Because now I don't know about the current vending machines, but back in the day, all you had to do was flood the vending machine with this salt water solution, because salt water carries a current, and as it's flooding over the control board, it would, like fire energy or, whatever, something to make, like.
See, I heard stuff like this when I was younger, but I didn't know if it was a real thing. People were talking about doing this kind of thing to ATMs too.
Right.
Like, I'm not sure exactly what, but
I definitely did not try it on an ATM, because I actually bought the schematics for an ATM, and I was planning on doing ATMs, but that would not have worked. So ultimately, I didn't try ATMs because they were a little too complex for my skill set at the time, and I would have needed another guy at least to do it effectively. So I never got into the ATMs, but.
Gotcha.
well, what God, see, you have so much stuff that's just
there's so
people
many.
would want to hear about. Like the how did the counterfeiting thing come up? Was that something you sought out, or did someone come to you, or what was that?
That was all my idea. Because first, before I was arrested in 2004, you got to go back 18 months is when we started. 18 months before that is when me and my partner decided to do it, right? So it took about 18 months to put it all together, to print the money, to get busted, and then, and get busted. So, but prior to that, I had tried counterfeiting 2 or 3 different times, but not with a print shop. That was like the golden, that was like the pinnacle. I had done it the computer way, with scanners and computers and stuff. So each time I would, go, usually like I'd get a Best Buy card or something and go buy all this equipment on a credit card, and then I'd come home and try to use it, and then try to return the equipment. But the time I would try to print the money, it came out, okay, but not good enough to really do anything with. So probably third time, over a course of about 2 years, the third time I got better paper, and I think it was because I had a much better laser printer, and the money came out, I wouldn't say good, because, but by the standards at that time, and with the equipment I was using, I thought it was pretty good. So we took it out in the town to try it out around town, and we went to a couple fast food places, and just ordered like a drink or a hamburger or something like that, just if it would pass, unscrutinized. And it was about 50-50. A couple places didn't notice, and we got the change, actual real change, for like the fake 10. But a couple places were like, "What is this?" And they're like, "Hey, calling the assistant manager." And that's when we were zoomed right out of there.
Yeah, right.
It's a serious thing.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, somebody. Who are we talking to? Oh, well, actually, I'll let him get to the. So, like, did you? Okay, so the guy that you did this with, he was like what was he, like a city planner or something like that?
Well, he was a print shop guy. He owned his own print shop. He was a professional printer. He did all the business cards for everyone in the town. He was a zoning board commissioner, and he was on the Chamber of Commerce, and he was on some other. minor township official type of thing. So, but I know he was a zoning board commissioner at one time. He was a well-respected member of the community. He had, him and me were like night and day. I mean, like we hardly had anything in common other than the fact that we wanted to make a lot of money. You know what I mean? And
so you didn't know him prior, really, to doing this?
No. I did know him prior because I used to go to his print shop to do my flyers for all my rap shit.
Oh, okay.
So he'd always be asking me questions like, "Oh, you really wear an octopus on your head?" I'm like, "Yeah, man." And he's like, "Dude, that's crazy." And so, like after months of, giving him business and, we developed a pretty good rapport, and we actually hung out and had a couple drinks a couple times, and so he really liked the idea of easy money, and so I tapped into it. I was like, "Hey, I got an idea.
It's a big one.
It's going to take a while to pull this off, but if you do it right, we'll have more than a little bit of money to play with." And he's like, at first he was like, every print shop guy has thought of this. Trust me, every single one has thought of doing this because they have the equipment, But he's like, nobody gets away with that. Plus, how do you even get rid of the money? He's like, I wouldn't know what to do with it. He's like, that's where I come in. All right, I'll handle the money. Don't worry about that. You just make it, okay? And we kept talking about it and talking about it. Finally, he came around and he's like, "All right, let's do this." I was like, "All right, let's do it." So from the time
it's the paper that's hard to do, right? Like, isn't it more like a fabric than a paper?
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, the actual paper that the federal government uses is produced by a company called the Crane Corporation, and they have an exclusive contract with the government, so nobody else can get that paper. Okay, and I think it's like 80% cotton, 20% linen is the makeup of their paper. So we can't get that, but we could get close to that. Like we might be able to get 75% cotton and 25% linen. So and commercial printers have access to some really good vendors for paper. So we ordered a bunch of samples and I tested them, and eventually we found one that came pretty darn close. I mean, most people would not notice,
especially if you put a little wear on it. I'm guessing,
Right.
there's no way you'd be able to tell.
Yeah. I was going to take the time to age some of the we never got to that stage.
And were you were kind of kind of scanning the bills and then kind of copying them in Photoshop or something, or something like that?
Well, that's how I did it before the printing press method. When I was practicing with the little computer systems, you scan them and then you manipulate them in Photoshop. But when you do it with a printing press, it's a totally different process. You don't need any of that stuff. What you need is a good that's what you need at that point, at that stage when you're making money with printing presses. So we had to actually build, and then like I said in a previous video, I'm pretty sure it cost like 15 grand.
Damn. So you guys were invested in this literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
So you probably planned on doing a lot of this. You probably planned on many runs of,
We only agreed initially to make 500,000, 250 for me, 250 for him. We didn't want to be greedy, But then as time went on, we figured, let's do the 500, but let's put 500 in storage for a rainy day. You know what I mean?
Right.
Let's just make it a cool mill, okay?
Yeah.
So,
well, if you get locked up and then you've got half a mil stashed, you got a lawyer and you got money when you get out. Yeah. So it's that's the way you do it.
Yeah, we were gonna knock a hole in his garage and then seal it up in the wall and then paint over it. That was the plan.
That is some Marty Bird shit.
That's some drug dealer shit. Like Blake O'Keefe was talking about, he was saying the
cop
officer
we just interviewed,
he was talking about how the only guys that could get away with it were the guys using plates.
Oh, back then, yeah.
Which I don't really know much about.
Well,
this is one of those things I didn't learn about on purpose, because if I did, I would do it for sure. Like, there's no fucking doubt.
Yeah, I mean that's what we were using. I mean, we had printing presses, and you use printing plates, and the plates have the face on one plate and the back on the other plate. And those plates, once you have those plates, the plates themselves are worth millions of dollars to certain people.
Oh wow, yeah.
Because they can make millions of dollars.
Because now they've got.
Where did you get the plates? Did you make them?
Rick made them.
Oh
wow, no shit. So the guy had some talent.
Yeah, wow. Shame you guys got
Now we never planned on selling the plates though, because there's two reasons for that. One, we wanted to keep them just in case we were to do it again. But two is you could get into a lot of trouble if you sell it to the wrong people. For example, let's say some Chinese dude wants to buy it. Okay, he tells you he's he's into gambling, and he wants to do it for some criminal reasons, but it turns out he's a foreign agent or a spy or something, right? Well, now you just committed treason.
Right. Oh, Lord.
It doesn't matter if they lied to you or not. You just sold a plate for federal government, Federal Reserve notes on it. You're done.
The enemy.
30 years or at least.
Wow. Yeah, you had mentioned before you did a lot of research as far as knowing what kind of time you could be facing, what the risks were. So you put some work into that end of it, it sounds like.
Yeah, for the years prior to us actually doing it, through the course of me trying it on computers those 3 times, that was over a period of years. And I had even bought a book on from an underground publisher on counterfeiting, and it was a paperback. It was probably about that thick, and it told a lot. It didn't have a step-by-step process. It was a little vague on some things, but it filled in a lot of the blanks that I had, and it really got me to the next level. So after I read that book, I guess that's when I kind of went shopping for a partner.
Yeah.
It worked out nicely.
Well,
you did before. Well, I mean, it worked out. Yeah.
Okay. The cop part.
But you didn't have any convictions or anything leading up to this, so that probably helped you when it came to sentencing and all that.
That's right. Because if I had any priors, I probably wouldn't have done it, because then they look at, because at sentencing, they look at your past criminal record history.
Yeah.
And any type of history, it'll enhance your penalties. And
right.
Some judges will just be like, oh, he's a career, he's a habitual felon, so
yeah.
But I had no criminal record at that point. So I felt pretty good and confident that if, in the very small chance that I got caught because of that super optimism shit, I was like, if I get caught, I should be okay, because I'm not going to get 20 years. That's that. And ultimately, neither one of us got convicted for counterfeiting.
Huh.
We got
convicted. Conspiracy?
We were both convicted for conspiracy to defraud the United States. That was the official. And a conspiracy charge, a federal conspiracy charge, is punishable by a maximum of 5 years. So that would have been the most we could have got. And like I said, 27 months. So about half of that.
It's not that bad.
Yeah, I mean, considering what the other possibility could be.
Not that any jail time is okay, but I'm just saying. So you had never you said that you had like criminal activity prior. Was that just little stuff like like drugs or, like little petty shit?
Well, it was, I guess minor in a sense, but like all the phone freaking was pretty illegal. Some of the social engineering stuff that I did was kind of, well, definitely would have been considered some type of wire fraud or time you use a phone to do some kind of fraud or something,
Mm-hmm.
you generally call it wire fraud because you use an electronic device, So if you use any type of electronic device, you call somebody in another state or another country and there's some kind of scam attached to it, that's wire fraud. So many other stuff that they can add on top of that. But, I did, some minor hacking, some phone phreaking, some minor scams. I sold a lot of marijuana back in the day. That was like my day job.
Me too.
Yeah.
It was very lucrative back in the day.
Yeah.
Government cut us out in Michigan, dude.
It certainly was. It certainly was.
And you, like when you say the social engineering thing, like me, when I say social engineering, I mean it's in a social sense, like face to face, getting someone to trust you.
How to speak to a police officer.
Yeah, how to speak to a cop, like that kind of thing. What do you mean exactly by that, as far as it being like a criminal activity?
Well, all the things that you said are correct, and I've done all that as well. But like when it applies to like hacking, you're essentially calling places and posing as somebody else or somebody that they would normally talk to get them to give you information that you need to do a hack with.
Yeah, okay.
So like if I called the operator, I would pretend to be like an AT&T rep or something like that, or some other telecom lineman who's out and needs a number for something or other. You know what I mean? So if you have some of the background information on all these people's jobs, you can eventually get their codes and their lingo and different things. And if you practice being these different people, then you can make the calls and get what you need eventually. But you can't just start making cold calls. Kind of know the background on this stuff, So, but yeah, social engineering is it's like hacking, but verbal and using the phone. Some of the stuff you in real life, like face to face, like you said, but most of the time, like 9 times out of 10, I was using the phone.
Huh. So you're getting like information for their accounts and like stuff like that, basically?
Right.
Got you. Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's do you think that like the psychology, the schooling you did like helped with that? Or did it just so happen that you had interest in both because they're similar?
Well, the psychology definitely helped. It definitely helped. Because you understand people's motivations, you understand how people think and what they want to hear sometimes. So it certainly helped. I mean, I didn't intentionally study psychology so I could be a better
right.
But it just happened to like jive and go together like peanut butter.
I guess I have to bring up a sore subject. Okay, so we detailed your arrest and everything. Looking back, I'm sure it's almost goofy. It's almost silly and funny, the guy who gave you up and what he gave you up for. But tell people about that, like how you got ratted on, because it wasn't like this guy was facing life in prison and had to say something. This is, I think people will be on their toes dealing with their friends after hearing this.
For sure. It's a good lesson.
You would think so, but yeah, I'll tell you about that. So this guy, he was a friend of mine. I only knew him for about 5 years. Okay, and he was a rapper from Detroit, and he moved to Flint. And I think that's when I met him, was when he was because there was a recording studio in North Oakland County that I used to go to, and he was going there too, and I think that's how we ran into each other. So we started talking about the rap stuff, and one thing led to another. I found out he made beats, so we started collaborating a little bit. At that stage, I was like, I had a toehold in the industry, and he was like starting from scratch, you know what I mean? But he was talented and he could make really good beats and he was a good rapper too. And he was kind of a tough guy, you know, he was kind of big and a lot of tats and kind of scary looking actually. So I thought maybe he'd be good, you know, for extreme kidnapping. So when I told him about that, he was like, "What? Oh yeah, I want to do that," you know. So
Same answer I had.
so, and do you remember, Mike, that one kidnapping we did? I want to say it was in like the Royal Oak area. It was off of Woodward.
Ferndale, next to the police department.
Next to the police department, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You remember that one?
Yeah.
All right. You remember the guy you did that with, Johnny?
Yeah.
All right. Well, the guy that ratted me out, him and Johnny were best friends.
Oh.
And they were roommates. Okay. So Johnny was working for me and the other guy, the guy that ratted me out, they were roommates and I put on the guy first. And then he told me about Johnny. And then since they were buddies, I, you know, hired both of them. And they were good. They did a good job. I mean, they're some of the best henchmen I ever had, next to you and Danielle and Joe. You know, the guy did a bunch of kidnappings with me, and that was all cool. And then after that, after, you know, a significant amount of time doing music with him, doing all these kidnappings with him, you know, you have a rapport. You know, you're doing stuff that nobody else is doing, and you do this guy all the time, so you get
Right.
more trusting. You know, so that's when I told him about Operation Franklin Stacking, because I felt like I could trust him, and I said, "Listen, when I get this money, I'm going to need a bodyguard for the plans that I have to launder this money." He's like, I'll do it. I'll do it. I was like, 15 grand. You just watch my back. He's like, done, deal. Okay. So, you know, months went by and me and my partner, you know, were doing what we had to do. And I never brought my bodyguard to meet my partner. I never wanted them to meet each other.
Yeah.
It was one good thing I did. But I never anticipated that he would, you know, snitch on me. I never saw that coming. Now, I knew he'd committed some crimes in the past. That's why he was down to do this with me. You know what I mean? He liked fast money. So I knew he would be down to do some kind of criminal activities. And I felt confident that I could trust him, you know? Well, what happened is he was driving his girlfriend's truck and he didn't have a driver's license. I didn't know that, but so he was driving her truck around without a driver's license. He had an ounce of weed, and we're not positive, but there's evidence that he probably had like some coke on him, like maybe an 8-ball or less. You know, I'm thinking it was probably less because I don't think he had enough money for an 8-ball at the time. But he must have got pulled over in town, and because of his he had a check fraud charge from the past. So I don't know exactly what they were trying to get him with, but it couldn't have been more than 6 months. And if he probably would have pled guilty, he probably would have got like a month in jail, you know?
Yeah, seriously, it's not that long.
It'd be like a probation violation or something. Maybe you get 90 days.
Yeah, it's
Maybe.
And
Yeah,
some
maybe.
fines or some shit. Like, yeah.
I just don't think it would have been that big a deal, but he didn't want to do any of that. So he was like, listen, I have a card to play. If you guys let me out of this, I will tell you everything about a big counterfeiting operation going on right now.
Damn.
The detective was like, I'm all ears. And so when he told him, the detective wanted to verify some of this stuff. So they called in the Secret Service and everything. And that's when they started having meetings with the CI, and they gave him a number, a CI number, plus the special agent in charge's phone number. And he's like, listen, I want to start telling us everything that this guy tells you. And then they moved on to, all right, now we want you to wear a wire.
Oh, he did wear a wire.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then they also did a series of controlled phone calls where they gave him like a phone that was hooked up to some recording equipment out in a van, you know?
Mm.
Yeah, they got the little 1-inch tape spinning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you're fucking John Gotti, you know?
They're in the van with the earphones on and all
Yeah.
Right.
Eating like, cold French fries like in the movies. Drinking
Yeah.
giant gallons of coffee. Yeah, I see it in my mind. It's funny.
I know, that's how I always
And the
envisioned
side of the van says like Mike's Lawn
It's like a
Care.
cleaning
Yeah.
So he's wearing a wire. Did you ever like feel like he was trying to lead the conversation too much to the action? Like, so Adam, about that counterfeiting thing we're involved in.
Oh no, because I had told him before this all happened, before I didn't know nothing about the wire when it was happening, but
Right.
when we were doing this operation, I told him not to talk about any of this stuff on the phone in any type of specifics. No names, no what we're doing, what I mean, other than the most basic stuff like, are you coming over later, or are we going to work on that thing later tonight, that type of stuff. So if it was anything other than that, he wasn't supposed to talk about it. But looking back on it, some of those conversations didn't have like actual specifics, but they jived nicely with everything that was going on. The times matched up, places that we were supposed to be would match up. And so it was still incriminating. It was still incriminating. Anyway, he cut it. And I'm sure I probably slipped up at least once and said something I shouldn't have said. You know what I mean? But some of the conversations did seem like, didn't we just talk about this yesterday? Why are we talking about this again?
Yeah. It's funny though, because they had him wear a wire in a situation where nothing really pertinent was probably going to be said.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's almost like a waste. It's like, all right, just sit back and wait for them to actually do this, stay in the picture, and lead us to them. That's it,
What's really interesting is it started taking so long because me and my partner, there was a stage where we both kind of got a little bored. And I think my partner was starting to have second thoughts. And so, we were just doing our own thing and talking about it very sporadically. And I think the Secret Service started getting impatient. And I think they said, let's speed this up.
Probably, yeah.
Because then my bodyguard came to me one day with this story about this guy he used to go to school with back in the day. He's a bank manager now and works at this small bank and in Detroit, and he's still down for some shady stuff and blah blah blah. And I was like, all right, tell me more. So we came up with the idea is that when banks get a lot of old money, they don't put it back into circulation. They store it up. And then a certain amount, they decommission it, and they basically send it to go get burned. Yeah. So the idea was that he had access to a stash of decommissioned cash, and we were going to give him X amount of counterfeit money. He'd pull the switcheroo and give us the decommissioned cash, and they'd burn the counterfeit, right? So I was like, hey, this might be a really
good, right?
money, So I was like, let's do a test with like 50,000, okay? And but this was all his idea. My body.
Dude, this is some entrapment type shit.
Yeah.
It's like he created the crime, and you know.
Well, I think the Secret Service came up with it and told him.
Oh, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah,
they did.
Yeah. So he sold the idea, and I bought it. It sounded.
It sounds great. Shit.
It sounded. That's part of it. It sounded so good.
Yeah.
It made sense.
It made sense, and I wanted to believe it.
Right. Yeah.
But looking back now, I'm thinking, what kind of bank manager would be hanging out with this guy?
Right.
Yeah.
I was wondering the same thing when you're saying it. I'm like, How would this guy know this bank manager? How would he remember this process that the guy tells him about? Like, oh, well, see, they decommission the cash, and
it's hard in those moments when it's like it is someone that you really want to, trust. You have no reason to believe that you can't trust them. They've never shown you any reason you can't trust them.
Right. I had no reason not to believe him.
Not believe him.
Yeah, there was no reason not to believe him at the time.
Yeah.
And he did say, me and this guy don't kick it on a regular basis. It's like we know each other from back in the day, and I know that he's down for stuff like that. But he's fairly respectable now. He tries to keep a low profile and keep his job. So that made sense to me, because there are guys like that have good jobs that still do some shady stuff on the side.
oh yeah,
And so I believe that was possible because I've known people like that. So I was like, well, it sounds plausible to me. So anyway, that jump started me and my partner again. It lit the fire under us, and then we really got to work then, because I was like, dude, let's just do this. This might be a really good opportunity to launder a lot of this a lot easier than I planned on doing it, the way I was going to do it. So, we finally, put everything into motion, did it, and boom, we got busted. So, but, during the discovery phase, during my case, I actually got access to the snitch tapes, and I actually have them in possession.
You have them?
Yeah, they're on a CD.
Oh wow!
Okay.
No shit.
Freedom of information, dude.
Yeah. Damn.
That's hilarious. I don't know if I could listen through them though, man. Like
I have to at least once.
My blood would boil. I mean,
I remember,
like when you were doing this, wasn't extreme kidnapping already doing well?
Yeah, we were doing okay. I mean, it was already out there,
So you basically, and you were making pretty good money from it. Like it was a career.
Yeah, I mean, I was still doing kidnappings and stuff. I mean, I think it was like 2005. I was on Howard Stern, and we were still doing all kinds of TV stuff and radio shows, and like back in the day, 97.1 FM here in Michigan.
Yeah, I was on.
I was on there a bunch of times. Yeah, we were keeping a profile on extreme kidnapping that was going on in the background.
Wow. See, that's crazy, because a lot of people would say, well, with music artists and stuff, you can always say this like, oh, he's got this big recording contract, he's making millions, and then he goes out and shoots somebody at a club, or he's in the hood doing this or that. So I guess a lot of people do it, but it's just my mind says like, damn, he created this thing. It's growing. It's fucking cool. Like, it's a hell of a career, but then it's like in the middle of it, I'm going to print this money. I don't know, man. It's like the only thing that could have fucked it up.
Yeah.
Any crime.
Looking back, if you were in the same position around that time in your life, you would have done it too. So don't even say that.
We're not talking about me.
I'm just saying. You would. You know it.
We're not talking about me. Dude, I was in such a bad position before. Like, this is like when the, maybe not as bad as now, but it was like depths of the recession. Couldn't get a job, have no college degree, didn't have a fucking license, nothing. But I could do some graphic design and shit because I'd done it for my own music and everything. And I had taken some classes, but I couldn't get a job because I didn't have the paper that said I could do it. So I actually created like an entire, just a plethora of fucking transcripts, cover letters, recommendations, like on the official stock of University of Toledo, because I didn't want to use like fucking Harvard or something because it's too obvious. Right. So I went with the University of Toledo. But then I learned that I would get, it was a crazy amount of time. It was like 30 years or something. And that was like a first offense thing to like forge transcripts and actually go to school and use them.
Yeah, that'd be a big charge for sure.
Yeah, so like I didn't do it, but I sat on him for years just looking at him going, my kids would be doing a lot, but like everything would be good. And I'm doing it like for a job, not like to do anything criminal. I was doing a criminal thing to try to go straight. Try
to go right.
Yeah, I was basically like the Trailer Park Boys. Like same type of thing. So you like you had talked about the yeah, that sucks that like EK kind of came to a screeching halt. You didn't have anybody who could actually like run that when you were in prison, did you? Like it was basically
No.
you and like henchmen and
Well, there's another wrinkle to that. So technically, yes, there was, because in 2005, that's when I was approached by a TV production company that wanted to make a reality TV series about extreme kidnapping. And they flew out here from New York, and I remember I met him at Red Lobster, and and I signed a contract with them because I was like, hell yeah, I want a reality TV show. So that was in 2005, and then 2006, early 2006, I went to New York to shoot a sizzle reel, which is like, it's like a trailer for a movie. It's like 3 minutes, 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes. And it's what production companies use to sell TV shows. They send them to the networks and, you know, other channels and stuff like that. And it's on the strength of a sizzle reel if a show gets picked up and, you know, greenlit.
Right.
yeah, I heard
It's
of
about
that.
making pilots, but that's not true. So anyway, made the sizzle reel, came back, they liked it, they said this is cool. So then they started a production schedule. Because like I said, I signed an agreement with them, and they flew a production crew out to Michigan, and they wanted to see everything that I was doing, everything that Extreme Kidnapping does, and a network on board that was interested. So they sent a network guy out from the Fuse network, and which was a music network at the time.
Yeah, Fuse TV, yeah.
And they were interested in, because it was like a rapper doing this kidnapping stuff, and that's why a music network was involved. But the guy came out and he was like, damn, this is cool shit, you know? So he went back and played it up, and then the production company got a major investment from the network. Like, I think it was like $100,000 for our show, you know? And so they took that money and they started shooting episodes, because they were like, this is going to happen. This is really going to happen. So I'm like, great, this is awesome. You know, so that whole year, 2006, was crazy because we were shooting episodes. They gave me a production assistant who was like a gopher, you know, like, dude, go get me a fucking Subway sandwich. You know, like, so, and the producers wanted me to, you know, they try to get you to do crazy shit so they can film it, you know. There was a script, a loose script. It was, what do they call it? Partially scripted or something like that. Reality based, but there was a loose script. They did have a writer. So the writer would write me lines and different things, and then they try to ply me with Jack Daniels and bourbon and stuff like that, and get me loaded and doing crazy shit, you know. So I had a bunch of staff at that time, because this was when I also had the girls team of kidnappers. So I had like 10 people at that point working for me. And they liked the angle of the girls team because they were going to play it up like a sexy Charlie's Angels, but like the bad girls, not
Yeah.
angels, you know what I mean?
Yeah, Charlie Adam's Devils, like
Yeah.
something like that.
So they rented us an office, which I never needed an office. I just worked, you know, out of my house, my apartment or whatever. But they rented us an office because the way they wanted to film the show was like we all went to the office every day, and we'd get these calls for jobs, and then we'd go do them, and that's how they wanted to portray it. You know, it's not how it was, but that's how they wanted to. Plus, everybody would be in one spot. You know what I mean? So they could film different people, different things. You know, so we did a lot of shorts, a lot of, you know, they filmed us hiring new girls for the girls team. That was like a whole day shoot. So there was a lot of different things. I remember one episode, and it was just literally an excuse to dress the girls up as cheerleaders. We went to this place, and they rented them cheerleader uniforms, And the guy that we kidnapped had to agree to sign a release so that it could be filmed. And, you know, and in exchange, I think he got like 50% off or free for the kidnapping. I forget what it was. But the episode was really cool. But what happened was the dude like touched one of the girls like very inappropriately, and the chick that he touched got really pissed off, and I forget if it was either Chanel or Nikki, and they got really mad. I think she hit him or something. And
was Nikki the little goth one?
No, that was Leslie.
Oh, who's Nikki?
Nikki,
I'm just trying to picture who would hit the guy.
well, it might have been Chanel, because she would definitely do something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
But so would Nikki. Nikki was the difficult one. She was always really difficult. Everything was a hassle with her. Like, she did a good job and she looked good doing the job, but just dealing with her was
problems came with it. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of headaches. So anyway, they came and told me about it, and then I had to go say something to the guy, and then they brought the guy in and we handcuffed him to something, and I think I don't remember what happened. It went off the rails. But they're still filming, and they filmed the whole thing, and it was all done. I'm like, dude, that was awesome. It wasn't supposed to be like that. It was like, don't worry about it. It was all good, you know.
Yeah, see, that is reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, that's how I first got involved. I came out. That's how I met Zowski too. I came out in rap. I fucking murdered that shit, bro. Like, I was like, yeah, this is TV. This is my chance. You know, I'm gonna kill it for him. And I was impressed with the production that Zowski did. So I was like, dude, I'm going 9th Wu-Tang member on this shit. And I fucking murdered it. And it was just like me in a booth, I think.
Yeah, I remember that. That was for another episode where it was heavy on the rap action. It was you, Mastermind from
Nodis, yeah.
From Nodis, and me and one other guy. I think it was supposed to be Davey Gravy from Bag of Hammers, but he punked out at the last minute.
I think so, yeah.
But yeah, you did your bit, and then I don't think Mastermind made it for some reason, because they started making changes to that script for some reason. I don't remember what happened with that. But yeah, I remember. I almost forgot that even happened.
Yeah, because I was like, yo, I rap, and I was like, but this kidnapping shit sounds cool too, man. So if you need somebody who can do both things,
right?
know, I was like, I think I could do this.
Oh yeah, you were quite good at the kidnapping stuff.
Appreciate it, dude. I appreciate
Definitely
it.
one of my best henchmen.
Dude, I enjoyed it because, like, I've told her, like, I felt like it was just a cool acting job.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I felt like a challenge that, if, you know, because, you know, you'll probably explain this a little bit in a minute, but normally the person knows pretty much exactly what's going to happen. They've, like, either agreed to it or created it. But I always wanted to try and convince them that it just became real. Like, you're in this vulnerable position. You think it's going this way, but wait a minute. No, this guy really is worth some money. I really do got him scared in a part of Detroit that he couldn't even point out on a map.
You signed up for the wrong service.
Yeah, bro, this just turned into a real thing. Fuck Adam, fuck the other henchmen. It's me and you now, you're done. And there was a few times I think I convinced the person that shit got real. And I felt it was so much fun to, like, play that role. Like,
that just made you sound so evil.
It was a little weird playing like an incestual, inbred whatever when we did
Psycho Redneck Clowns, remember?
Yeah,
and it's like my mom that was also my lover or whatever the fucking thing was. At least she was an attractive chick that was like my age. So
X-Files episode.
So I could put the whole script part out of my mind a little bit, but that shit was elaborate. Like that's what people need to understand. Some of these were like really well put together, like films. And this wasn't when the reality guys were there. It was either was it you a lot of times, or was it just the person had a fantasy and they wanted to act it out?
Well, most of the time it was because they're all customizable, and I offered, custom kidnapping. So if they had an idea that they wanted to do and it was doable, then we would do it. Usually, outfits and costumes, portraying certain people like gangsters or psycho rednecks, all that type of stuff. We've done all that, so it's customizable up to a point, but some of the stuff got a little too complex or a little too weird. So I'd say, nah, we're not going to do that, but we'll do this, so it was like a give and take. We go back,
Not only being an executive producer, it's like, no, I think this will work better. Here's the way we're going to do it. That's what I mean. It was like playing that role it was fun. It was fun to play that role. And almost every time you were something slightly different. It's like maybe you're a little more brutal this time. Maybe this time you had a weapon. This time you didn't. This time is more of like a torture / negotiation.
It'd be fun to play the parts, but man, I just can't even identify with these people who want to pay to do this shit.
Well,
it's
that's
crazy to me.
People that are going to listen to this don't know yet quite the extent of how strange some of these people are.
Well, that's what I would assume is that it's just crazy.
I understand the getting kidnapped part for ransom or whatever. It's kind of exciting.
It's fun. It's like a movie or whatever, but never in my life would I think to seek out a service to pay for something like that. It's just it's wild that there are so many people out there that not only want to just find these services and pay for it or whatever, but completely have this whole thing in their mind and customize it and do all this shit. That's really going all out. It makes me wonder what kind of weird fucking fetishes are you motherfuckers into?
Dude, that's what I was gonna ask. I don't want us to use all the time on this, but give an example of maybe the weirdest one. What I'll ask you later, but if we have time, about maybe one you turned down because it was too weird. But what's maybe the weirdest one that you did?
Yeah, in a nutshell.
Well, actually, I've turned down tons of work.
Oh, I bet.
I've probably turned down more jobs than I've taken in 20 years. Because a lot of them I didn't want to do. I was like, oh, that's weird. Oh, that's me and the guys aren't going to want to do that. You know what I mean? So yeah, there was a lot that was just too weird. Some of them were out and out illegal, so I turned those ones down right off the bat. But some of them were funny but weird. This one dude, I had to look this up because I thought he was pulling my leg, but he was serious. He wanted us to kidnap him and then tie him to a barbecue spit, the old-fashioned kind with the crank,
like a pig roast?
Like a pig roast.
Yeah, and then butter him up and baste him in butter sauce, and then roast him, slow roast him. And then I was like, dude, you gotta. I was like, dude, that's got to be dangerous. I mean, there's fire.
Let's just roast this guy. Yeah.
Holy shit.
I guess.
So he wanted to get burnt just enough to where he's not.
Yeah, you just wanted to get a bad sunburn.
A little sunburn.
The kidnapping part was just the vehicle to get him into this predicament. That was his fantasy, though, being slow roasted pig or barbecue spit thing. You know what I mean?
Why?
And all buttered up like a butterball turkey.
This guy will probably see this and be like, man, that was between me and you, bro.
That just reminds me of a movie from New Guinea or something, some cannibals on an island. I don't know.
Dude, do you think that the penny loafer guy was maybe the strangest though? No? Not
even close. No. I mean, he was strange. Yeah, don't get me wrong, he was strange. He had that obsession with penny loafers,
What were they called again?
Base Ouijan penny loafers, right?
Yeah, I had to keep saying that. because I was explaining to her, I think that where he was from, that represented like conformity, like a straight and narrow guy, success maybe.
Okay.
And it was like we're degrading him, and that's what a lot of this was. It was degrading guys. Like
I feel like it's people that are like one step away from like some S&M, but they're like not ready.
it's a fetish.
It's just so weird to me. I don't know. It's just so weird.
Well, remember, we were supposed to be obsessed with his penny loafers.
Yeah. Like, ooh, look at those. Like,
Like we were obsessed with them, and like I forget what the deal was, but we targeted him because of his penny loafers.
yeah, we made him rub them together to make a sound. That was his thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
he was
we
really-
tied him up, we forced him to rub his. We acted all turned on by it. 'Cause
Yeah.
That's what he wanted.
Oh, for the love of
Like,
Christ.
oh, listen to that.
We're gonna
Whatever her name was in the script. Listen to that, Emma. Oh yeah, he's a rich
who was
boy.
Who was it that was running around that day with the chainsaw? That was you? Dude, you scared me so bad that day. At one point, the guy he got loose and he was running around.
Oh yeah.
I remember you chasing him around with the chainsaw, and it was on. It was on, and I remember you swinging around and you hit a vending machine, and like sparks flew off of it. And I was like,
Oh my God.
what if you would have hit the guy with that? I'm
What
like,
if you would have hit him?
I
Oh my
was-
God. What the
It's like the Alec Baldwin with the gun
No.
thing. It happens sometimes. I don't know.
Baldwin lawyers?
Dude,